I found her lying on a velvet couch, not a patient, but an object of plastic perfection. She smiled at me endlessly, her eyes wide open, her lips fixed in eternal satisfaction. Yet behind that pink serenity, I sensed something familiar, the echo of an unconscious desire, the dream of an impossible self. You see, this doll, this Barbie, is not merely a toy. She is a symptom, a manifestation of what we humans long for but can never fully attain, control over the chaos of existence. Her hair never tangles, her body never changes, her smile never fades. She is the fantasy of permanence in a world built upon decay. In every little girl who holds her, there is a conflict between innocence and imitation, between who she is and who she believes she should become. The child projects her future self onto the doll, and the doll, in return, whispers the ideals of her culture back into her mind. This is not play. It is early psychoanalysis in miniature, but the illusion is fragile. For every perfect smile hides the anxiety of imperfection. Every flawless plastic surface conceals a mirror to our own insecurities. We look at Barbie, and in her we see both our highest ideals and our deepest fears, the wish to be admired and the terror of never being enough. So when you gaze upon Barbie, do not see a mere doll. See a reflection of our collective dream and the unconscious cost of chasing it. She is not the patient upon my couch. She is the world itself, lying there, painted in pink, asking softly, "Tell me, doctor, am I real?" As I study her silent smile, I begin to ask myself, who is Barbie really? Is she the woman we wish to become, or the woman we are told to be? Her image has traveled across generations, yet her essence has never aged. In her world, there is no hunger, no fatigue, no tragedy, only the illusion of choice dressed in pink. And perhaps that is what disturbs me most. The perfection that denies all suffering. You see, human desire is never satisfied. It feeds upon what it cannot reach. Barbie, however, is the embodiment of satisfaction frozen in time. She is the denial of conflict, the repression of imperfection. Every curve of her body, every tone of her voice in our imagination says, "Everything is fine." But the unconscious knows better. For behind the flawless smile hides the anxiety of never feeling enough. In her world, every emotion is polished, every wound concealed beneath glitter. It is the fantasy of a life without contradiction. But the psyche, the true theater of our being, thrives upon contradiction. Without pain, there is no transformation. Without lack, no desire. Barbie offers the illusion of completeness, and in doing so, she denies the very force that makes us human. So I ask again, not as a doctor, but as a man, what happens when a generation grows up believing they must always smile? When even sadness must look beautiful and vulnerability must fit within the frame of a photograph? Perhaps Barbie is not the dream. Perhaps she is the mirror in which our collective exhaustion stares back, disguised as beauty. The question remains, who is Barbie? Maybe she is each of us, performing the role we think the world expects. Maybe she is the mask we wear when the truth becomes unbearable. And maybe, just maybe, she is the proof that in the age of perfection, the most subversive act is to be real. When I look at Barbie, I see not a toy, but an artifact of the collective unconscious, a perfect vessel of projection. She does not speak, yet she says everything. She has no interior life, yet she reflects the interior emptiness of those who worship her. In her polished silence, she becomes the screen upon which desire is projected and through which repression is glorified. She's not born from innocence, but from fantasy. The fantasy that we can control how we are seen. In her, the id finds a subtle prison. Desire, instinct, passion, impulse, all are subdued under the tyranny of perfection. The id would have her chaotic, unpredictable, alive. But the superego, that moral guardian born from culture and judgment, commands her to smile. She cannot rage, she cannot err. Her rebellion has been domesticated into fashion, a dress for every occasion, but no true freedom to feel. Between these forces lies the ego, the eternal negotiator. It tries to balance the instinctual drive of the id with the suffocating demands of the superego. Barbie's ego, if it could speak, would perhaps whisper, "Let me be both adored and authentic." But society, like a strict father, replies, "Be beautiful, not truthful." Thus her existence becomes an endless performance, one in which being seen replaces being known. Barbie's world is built on repression, the repression of imperfection, of mortality, of desire that cannot be packaged. She represents the dream of eternal youth, the denial of decay. Yet as every analyst knows, what is repressed does not disappear. It returns, disguised, transformed. Perhaps in the anxiety of those who look at her and feel lesser, or in the envy she inspires that corrodes admiration. The unconscious speaks, even when the lips remain smiling. There is in Barbie a profound narcissism, though not hers, but ours. We gaze upon her and see the reflection of the ideal self, flawless, desired, envied. This mirror, however, gives not comfort, but alienation. For to live through an image is to become a stranger to one's own depth. The more perfect the mask, the more suffocating the silence beneath it. Observe the ritual of play. A child holds the doll, dressing, undressing, commanding. Here, the child unconsciously rehearses the power dynamics of adulthood: control, possession, identity. Barbie becomes both object and subject. She is dominated, yet she dominates the imagination. This duality mirrors the human psyche itself, forever torn between being the dreamer and the dreamed. Each accessory, each house, each new version of Barbie is not mere marketing. It is repetition, that deep Freudian mechanism by which the psyche seeks mastery over anxiety. We buy again, we play again, we chase the same image, hoping this time it will satisfy the lack it once provoked. But repetition does not heal the wound. It only reminds us that the wound exists. So when I hold this doll in my hands, I do not see plastic. I see the anatomy of a dream, one sculpted by repression, sustained by desire, and disguised as innocence. She is not the enemy, but the symptom, the externalization of our longing to be seen, admired, and loved without ever having to reveal our flaws. And perhaps that is why Barbie endures, because she promises what the psyche forever seeks: a beauty untouched by pain, a self untouched by time. As I continue to observe her, I realize that Barbie is much more than a figure of perfection. She is the reflection of what humanity most fears to confess: the fear of not being enough, the fear of being seen as one truly is, imperfect, fragile, fragmented. Behind the doll's shiny surface lies a silent truth. We do not pursue perfection out of vanity, but out of dread. Dread that if the world sees our flaws, it will turn away from us. There is, therefore, a deep desire to be seen, but not simply seen, but rather seen in the right way. Barbie embodies the idealized gaze, one in which the ego is admired and never judged. But this is an impossible vision. The human being cannot bear to be seen all the time, nor can they bear to be ignored. We live in this paradox. We want to be admired, but we fear being discovered. We want to be desired, but we tremble at the idea of being known in depth. Barbie's eternal perfection creates a seductive illusion that we could one day control the way we are perceived. But this is merely a narcissistic dream. No one controls the gaze of the other. No one controls the narrative the world will make of them. And the more we try to control the image we show, the further we drift from ourselves. Identity, when reduced to appearance, transforms into a prison. Repetition is another profound phenomenon here. A new Barbie, a new version, a new accessory. And the cycle continues. This impulse to repeat is not casual. It is the unconscious mechanism by which we try to dominate what escapes us. We buy, we change, we adorn, we reinvent, in the hope that the next version will finally bring the feeling of completeness. But the void remains. And it is precisely this void that feeds the market of illusions. In the end, Barbie symbolizes a universal human condition, the struggle between who we are and who we would like to be, between truth and performance, between desire and duty. She is the mirror that reflects our yearning for recognition. Perhaps Barbie was never truly about beauty, but about longing. In her polished silence, we find the echo of our own wish to be enough, to be seen without the fear of rejection. She stands as a monument to the fantasy that one can exist without contradiction, without conflict, without pain. Yet it is in the cracks of the soul, not its smooth surface, that our humanity breathes. We have dressed her, loved her, envied her, judged her, but she has always remained still. And maybe that is her final lesson, that perfection is not alive. To feel is to fracture, to desire is to suffer, and to love is to risk the loss of control. Without those wounds, the psyche would have nothing to dream about, nothing to heal, nothing to seek. As I place her back upon the table, I sense that she will outlive us all. Not because she is timeless, but because she is our time. She carries within her the eternal cycle of human illusion, the search for a self that needs no mask and yet cannot live without one. Barbie is not merely a doll, she is our mirror, polished until we no longer recognize our own reflection. And perhaps when all the noise of culture fades and the pink dream dissolves into silence, what will remain is the simplest truth, that to be human is to be unfinished. We are not plastic, nor perfect, nor eternal, and it is precisely in that imperfection that we find our soul, for only what can break can truly live. Perhaps in the end, the question was never who Barbie is, but who we become in her gaze.